People sometimes ask me, how did your father build the Sheraton Hotel Corporation, which he did? At the time of his death, there were 400 hotels. And when he started, which was during the Great Depression, he had no employees at all. At the time of his death, 20,000. How did he do it? Well, as I was growing up, I knew that he was a successful man. I could look at the house that I grew up in, and I saw that it was sure different from the other houses of my classmates at Lincoln Public School. So I knew he was a successful man, and that meant I was always asking him, Father, how did you do it? Well, he had 100 different answers, but one of the ones that I just thought was the most important of them all is one that I'll share with you right now. It's something that I hope, if you're either an employer or maybe even an employee, it will really help you the way it helped him. To explain it, come back with me to the 1930s when he was first forming his hotel, or starting in the hotel business. It was during the Great Depression, and hotels were going bankrupt right and left. Nobody would buy them, and that was really the start for him of his whole career. He told me that when he'd take over a hotel, it would always be because it was in bankruptcy. And the first day that he took ownership, my father would invite all the people who worked for the hotel, and there could be many hundreds of them, there could be 800 people, and he'd invite all of them to come into the ballroom of the hotel. And he knew that the people who were in front of him in the ballroom, the hundreds and hundreds of employees, he knew that every one of them was demoralized, because it was traditional when somebody took over a hotel to do what they called house cleaning and fire loads of people and then hire your friends. But Father had a different attitude. Father said, as he addressed all the people who were in front of him, and knowing that every one of them is afraid that they're losing their jobs, every one of them is thinking, how am I going to pay the rent? How am I going to face my wife? How am I going to put food on the table? Father knew that they were thinking that. And so here's what he said to them, the first words out of his mouth. He would tell them, every one of you is going to keep your job. And the reason why is because I know that you know your job better than anybody else on the whole planet. My job in all of this is to enable you to show the world just how good you are, because I believe in you. I know that in 2 years, this hotel is going to be the best hotel in the whole city. It's going to be the best served, the most popular, and frankly, the most popular. It's going to be the winning hotel, and you're the reason why, because you knew your job, you know your job, and I have just one sole purpose in this great big enterprise, and that is to give you the support that you need to show the world how good you are. Well, can you imagine what that meant to the employees, to go from as low as you can to going really pretty high? It was, it was transformative for them, but that's not the end of the story. The next day, those same employees would see cavalcades of plumbers, electricians, decorators coming into the hotel, but they weren't going to any of the places that the public would see. Instead, they were going to renovate places like the employee dining rooms, the employee lockers, showers, the rickety old elevators. The first money that Father ever spent when he took over a hotel was for the areas that the public would never see. Well, I asked him, why did you do that? And he said, because this was a way of communicating to the people who now worked for him how important he felt they were. It was showing the emphasis and the priority of what he really cared about, which was the employees. Because, as he told me, it's the employees at every level that are going to make the success or the failure of your enterprise. And so everything that you can possibly do to communicate to the employees how important they are to you, that's where the success lies. But then he told me some more about what he was doing in telling the people that he believed in them. He said people have a compulsion to live up to or down to your expectations of them. So when he was telling them, I believe in you, that's giving them the expectations of, yeah, that there's somebody who really does believe in me. But even more important than that, he said what really counts for a leader, what a leader's job is to give people a better vision of themselves. When to take, for example, maybe a maid or a bartender at one of the hotels, they can see their job as making beds or serving drinks, or they can see their job as being a part of a winning team that's going to have the best hotel in the whole city. Give them a higher vision of themselves. And why is this important? Why is the better vision of themselves important? You're trying to motivate people. You're trying to get engaged employees. He said there are 3 ways of getting employees engaged. And the first one is intimidation, not his favorite approach. He said there's something seriously wrong with intimidation, and it's the following. He said, I could have gone into that room, to that ballroom, and told everybody, shape up or you're fired. You can get compliance that way, he told me, but you don't get commitment. People do it grudgingly. Intimidation long-term does not work. He said there's another way. You could try bribery. You could tell them, do a better job and you're all going to get bonuses. He said that doesn't work long-term either, because the problem is when you bribe somebody, you always have to keep increasing the bribe. It's a bad tactic, he said. But there is a third way, as he told me. He said the third way is to give people a better vision of themselves, get them to buy into your vision, and to repeat. What he said was, the way to get the absolute best engagement is to have people embrace and have your vision be part of their vision. And that's what a leader's job is. Well, something that Father didn't know back then, he couldn't have known this because the research wasn't done in the 1930s or the 1940s. But in the 2000s, we know something that he couldn't have known, but intuitively he kind of did know it. I'm going to describe some research from the Gallup Organization, something that can be really useful to you. And it relates to my father's principles of giving employees a better vision of themselves and his ways of motivating them. The Gallup Organization has studied and done polling in 195 different countries. And for 30 years, they've been studying what makes employees feel engaged and how engaged are they in different countries throughout the world. They have almost 100 million data points that are going to support the statistics that I'm going to share with you right now. They divided employees in the State of the Workplace report that they give each year, and as I said, 100 million data points to back this up. They divided employees into 5 categories. There's the top fifth and the bottom fifth of employees who are engaged. And by engaged, they mean people who like to go to work, people who feel that their work is important, people who feel that their boss really values them. And Gallup has discovered the following statistics, which I invite you to take to heart. I sure take to heart. If you take the top percentile, the top fifth percentile of those who are engaged, you'll find that they take 10 times less sick leave. Now think what that means to your organization if you can get engaged employees. They have 10 times less sick leave. They also create the most new customers. Each person, when you have a fully engaged company, becomes brand ambassadors. They create new customers. And they're 31% more productive. Now imagine what that means for the growth of a company. So you really, really want the most engaged workers possible.